true. That is the most grounding, calming, comforting, peaceful thought that I can even think of, is like, you have a God that's for you. He loves you. He's working things out that you're completely unaware of right now. If I just think that and breathe, like almost breathe that in and breathe it out, that always helps. It doesn't solve all the things that are going on, but it is so recentering.
Tori, I think it's appropriate maybe that the subject today is kind of how do you handle stress with any degree of success whatsoever? Because I know today, the day that we're shooting has been a pretty stressful day up till now. So it's probably a good appropriate time to talk about techniques. How do you handle stress to the best of your ability?
Yeah, it is a good day to ask, because I'm like hyper aware of how stressed I've been the past few days. So along with just the day-to-day stuff that we are always dealing with, I've been preparing for a presentation in front of, a bunch of women. And when I'm preparing for stuff like that, I really try to give it my all. But it's almost like I describe it as another tab running in my brain constantly. And so I'm trying to like do my actual job.
That's a good way to explain
Yeah,
it.
but I just know that there's this like browser in the background that's running, and I'm just aware. Like yesterday, I was a little bit snappy with you, but I had to like stop and be like, okay, why did I actually say what I said to him? And why did I
Wait
say
a
it
minute,
that
you
way?
were snappy to me?
Yeah. I actually walked out of a meeting yesterday with you, and I wanted to go back and be like, actually, I wanted to.
I mean, I didn't even notice it because I guess I'm used to it, but I knew how stressed. So even if I'd have noticed it, I wouldn't have really cared because I knew you had an extra browser running, and that drains energy and adds to stress.
Yeah. Well, you did something that offended me, and I wanted to like go and tell you how I was right and you were wrong. And then I was like, wait a second. No, I actually don't. Like, on a normal day, I would have just like let that roll off. But because of the stress I was dealing with yesterday, I let it affect me too much. But I mean, that's the beauty of talking about stress. If we just like get it out in the open and just say, I'm
Yeah,
feeling more stressed than usual.
yeah. Like there was a day on Friday, I was waiting on something very important to come through on email. So I'm watching email.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a proposal that I'm trying to write and get typed up because there was a time component attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just felt under pressure. And then I'm getting texts at the same time. And then I swear there was two people standing at my door, both with different questions they were trying to ask me. And they were both important. So I couldn't blow it off. So there's like 5 things competing for my attention. And I think I have to stop and realize at those times, okay, this is not a time where you're going to maybe be handling stress perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it causes your brain waves to do that. Like it as a stressor, or in those stressful situations, your brain waves speed up, and it can cause physiological changes to the body and actually have harmful effects.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't do nothing about it in the moment, like one of those situations. But after the fact, I think it's important that you kind of let your brain calm down, the brain waves, just smooth out, and you have to take time to recover. I think part of handling stress is you don't eliminate it in the moment. You just learn to deal with it the best you can and then recover afterwards.
And communicate it properly with the people around you. So like we were actually supposed to record this yesterday, or you were hoping to record it yesterday, and I had to say, I just can't do it. And that's important because if I had tried to do it, like my head really wouldn't have been there. And so it's important to just tell the people you're working with directly when you're under more stress than usual. And what I found is when you're honest about it with people, they want to help you and they show you a lot of grace.
Yeah. And also when you can communicate your personality to other people, if it's somebody you're working close with, you don't go around saying this to everybody,
Yeah.
but people that you work with, if they know maybe that you're under stress or how you handle stress best, Yeah, I think they do kind of want to get on board with you and help you. So being honest or being open about that is important.
Yeah, because you can't go around using it as an excuse all day. Like I can't respond to all my clients and be like, I'm really stressed today. Can you just leave me alone? But it is important that you communicate with the people who can actually influence how you handle the rest of your day.
You know how you get those email replies from somebody if
Like
they're
an
out?
out of office reply.
It's like, yeah, I'm going to answer your email here in a set amount of time, but it's under stress, okay?
I have a question for you
Yeah.
because you mentioned there being two people at your office. Your office is literally right when you walk in our front door, and
It's not
I've
optimal.
always wondered, like, was that intentional when you chose your office? Did you want did you want to be the
No.
first person people encounter?
No, I had much different ideas when we moved into that building, and I moved around 2 or 3 times before I landed there, and I don't even remember why I landed there. But yeah, it's like
I just feel like that's a like optimal spot for just taking on extra stress that's not needed. One thing though that I do appreciate about your location is and just your openness to be there for people when they are stressed out. Because for me, I try to like handle it and keep it inside, but then there's certain days when I'm like, I just need to talk to somebody who handles stress really well and for them to like calm me back down. And you've always been a good resource for me in that because you can kind of just like, you acknowledge that there is stress going on that I'm facing, but just kind of like, but remember, you're dealing with XXX, all these
yeah,
things.
because I
Just calm
know
down.
I know I know your motivation behind the effort and how hard you work. I know how much you put into every single thing that you do because you can't help it that you were born with that Enneagram number one tendency of being very excellent and putting so much excellence into everything that you do. So I see that playing, in the background and everything that you do. And there's some of that in me. I mean, like I'm an 8, and so it's a completely different type of energy. But I think we both try to put our best into everything that we do, and that causes a certain level of stress
And you're
because
good about asking me when I tell you what's stressing me out. You're like, so is that a pressure that you're putting on yourself, or is
yeah,
this really a true pressure? And so I always need that balance of somebody like, okay, that's really self inflicted.
yeah, self-inflicted one. It
Yeah.
is most of our stress. I could probably sit down and list out everything that's caused me any stress today and for the rest of the day, and I bet 90 some % of it is self-induced.
Hmm.
So or self-inflicted. Some people are like that, and some people aren't.
So what's a practical way that you manage your own stress? When you know
Um,
you're dealing with a lot of things in a certain day, you're getting like what you're about to walk into.
I think first thing, like we were talking about, just being aware and recognizing the fact that okay, some days are just going to be stressful, So let's just plan to deal with it the best that we can, and knowing that probably tonight I'm going to need a little bit more downtime and a little bit more brain calming time, and just accept it. It's like, yeah, that's just the way it is. But I think there's also some things that we can do to be proactive in the moment. Okay, so when those really stressful things happen, or like when you're having to give a presentation to a whole bunch of people, the stress that comes with that. If you have that, you said as a browser like running in the
Like an extra
background.
tab.
If
Yeah.
you also have an extra tab running of recognizing and being having gratitude of the situation that you get to be in. I mean, a lot of people work their whole life just to be recognized by anybody to be asked to speak,
Mm-hmm.
in front of others.
Yeah.
So looking at that from the attitude of, man, I should be thankful for this. Like this is a great opportunity. Um, a lot of the things that we work for, clients or projects, we should stop and be, yeah, that might cause pressure, but stop and be grateful for the fact that we have that opportunity to get to do that.
Oh, and that just reminded me that if you're not staying in that grateful attitude, you could go quickly into the resentful attitude. And I was a prime example of that yesterday because I was um I was leaving and I said something to you like call me later and you're like, well, I'm gonna go play tennis, and I go, of course you are.
I know. I thought I heard you say that.
Yeah,
I'm like, what
I
the
was
heck?
so that was so rude. But I was feeling resentful because I knew I was getting ready to go home and have to just like keep preparing, keep practicing, and then do things that I didn't finish up in my like what I was actually supposed to get done for
Yeah.
the day. But I took it out on you, and it was very resentful because I was like imagining you playing tennis, and I'm like sitting at my computer.
If it makes you feel better, I lost really bad.
Well, it doesn't. But what I do, I think something else that's important to point out about that is the fact that you schedule time to go do things to relieve stress. So you do put tennis on your calendar and you show up even on your most stressful days. You have your gym bag and you're ready to go and you'll leave everything on fire. But my
I
goodness,
showed
you get
up
to
at the
play
tennis
tennis.
court.
And I'm so happy
showed,
for you.
I showed up at the tennis court yesterday with my brain on fire. It's like I'll show up to the tennis court and my brain be so, I don't know, pressurized or feel so stressed that I can't even focus on the ball. I mean, my eyes literally can't hardly see the ball because it's just that feeling of pressure. And
Are you
so,
sure you're not just old?
huh?
Are you sure you're not just old? You had to say, huh? You
Yeah,
can't
you
hear
can't
either.
even hear.
So I can't think of words. I can't hear.
Can't
I can't
see.
see a ball. No, I don't think I'm getting old.
But it was important for you to at least go out there and sweat.
The whole point was to sweat. You know, like that for me. That's a big coping mechanism, and I'm sure everybody needs to identify the coping mechanisms that help their chemicals like calm back out. For me, if I don't go and sweat after work, I can't really go home and relax. You know, like that's just part of it for me. I know not everybody's like that, and it's probably uncommon or unnormal, but I don't know.
Unnormal.
Abnormal? Nick, would that be the word I was looking
Yes.
for? Just feel free to correct me at any point, okay?
Yeah, and some people may be in a season where the things that used to help them cope with stress maybe is not practical in their season of life. So right now, I'm kind of in a season of trying to figure out my new normal in terms of working out and staying active. I used to have a very scheduled routine that kind of went off track a few months ago, and now I'm like trying to refigure out what that can look like for me, because I don't. It's like I hate giving up time after work because I want to be with my kids. To
Yeah,
get
and I'm
up,
proud of you in that. Like you
well,
take time for your kids, and you literally schedule around that. And I think you have to. Like when y'all were growing up, I did that. I got to do less. I got to play less tennis. You know, there was less time for sweating. But I got a lot of enjoyment and the brain chemical high from just being with you all or watching you play sports. So it's just different times of life. You're gonna need to handle stress differently.
Yep.
I think one thing that's important that we realize if we're going to talk about how to deal with stress, the underlying foundation for me is if I didn't have some type of faith and a peace in that faith that at the end of the day it's all going to be all right, and even if it ain't, it will be tomorrow or next week. But it's like there's an underlying faith that there's a God that loves me, that wants to see me do well, that's working in ways that I can't even understand. And I think if you have that faith running, that faith tab running,
Yeah.
it kind of offsets some
That
of the
is
other.
so true. That is the most grounding, calming, comforting, peaceful thought that I can even think of is like, you have a God that's for you. He loves you. He's working things out that you're completely unaware of right now. If I just think that and breathe, like almost breathe that
Yeah.
in and breathe it out, that always helps. It doesn't solve all the things that are going on, but it is so recentering.
I was talking to one of our employees yesterday. About the subject. Like we were just going to try to talk about ways to handle stress. And I wanted to find out how they handle stress. And one of them was telling me that for her, it's important to get things out on paper. Like she's got these mental lists going all the time.
Yeah.
And I know you do that a lot because
Yes.
I've seen all your little lists all on the same page, but you'll have like 5 different lists of things going on. And that's how your brain has like
Yes.
deciphering them or whatever. But keeping it on paper helps me a lot too. I
Mhm.
mean, I know if I'm going to leave Friday, if I want to go home and relax for the weekend, but I know there's a lot of things I need to get right back on Monday morning. It helps me a lot to put them down on paper and then walk away from it.
Yeah. Because I feel like sometimes by the end of the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't get enough done. I'm going to have to work on it tonight. And so if I write the things down that need to be done, and then I look back through my list and I'm like, okay, which of these truly cannot wait until tomorrow? That helps me prioritize and get it out of my brain that feels like you didn't do enough.
Yeah.
Everything's, it just helps to get it out on paper.
You said my office is situated where people come in the door, and that's not intentional, but it's almost kind of like I'd rather just deal with whatever problems I got to deal with at the time
Mm-hmm.
instead of putting them off or having them come at me later.
Yeah.
So that's why I leave my phone on all the time. I don't like try to turn it off. I'd rather just know if something needs solving or if there's a problem. I'd rather just know about it and get it taken care of and then move on, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
No, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's the way I do it.
So I mentioned earlier about resentment being not a good emotion that can come from being stressed. But another one that I think is being under a lot of stress can cause you to compare your circumstances and your situation with other people and be like almost jealous of, well, they don't have to deal with this much stress.
You know?
And that's not healthy either.
That's when you got to go back and remember it's probably self-induced.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at other people
But
for
it,
that,
yeah, and it's that like whole the grass is greener on the other side thing. Like you have to stop and be like, is it actually greener over there, or is there just something that I need to water within my own yard? Does that make sense?
yeah,
Like,
I think another thing that can cause more stress is like the more stuff you're chasing daily or just in your life in general, that's just adding more stress. Like if you can simplify your life and the stuff that you're chasing after, like which should be your family and God, like if you keep it that simple, your life becomes more simpler and you have a lot less of that stress
mm-hmm.
because you're not chasing fame, you're not chasing, success money wise or social status. Like as soon as you start chasing all those things, that's when all that stress and stuff comes into your life.
yeah, it just adds so many layers to complicate life. And I agree with you. The simpler, that's a good point. Like managing that is important. Managing how much of those tabs you want to keep open at one time.
Mm-hmm.
We do have control over that,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some things that we probably shouldn't be trying to pursue, and we're pursuing them if we really stop and think about it, maybe out of the wrong motives.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start asking you, is this a tab we really want to run?
Yeah.
When you come into my office with another idea or something you need done.
Uh,
I just mean Nick's exactly right. We should
yes,
examine
that's
what are the
exactly right.
tabs that we're opening? Do we really need to focus on that right now? And what is the most important thing that we should be focusing on?
This episode, I guess, has been a little bit back and forth. We're trying to focus on the stress aspect, but I think we ended up talking about a lot of different things because a lot of things feed into stress.
Mm-hmm.
But we tried to film this today under actual very stressful circumstances, like both of us from a scheduling standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It was very full and a lot of things we're trying to get done on a quick turnaround, deadline. And so, this maybe wasn't the best time to try to talk about it, but maybe it was,
I think it's probably the best time to talk about it because,
because it's raw today,
yeah,
you know?
you can feel it.
Yeah. But let's take deep breaths, reassure each other, turn some tabs off, and get out of
Yeah,
here.
and encourage other people who are also dealing with a lot of stress, especially in small business when you're wearing a lot of hats. Like, just expect that there is going to be stress. There's going to be unexpected things that come up that were not a part of your plan for the day or for the week. And just that, almost that acceptance of it also helps to kind of calm you down a little bit. Like, it's going to be a little,
Yeah. Let's just go calm down, okay?
let's just go calm down.
because it's about time to end. I think the sweat from my back's rolling down my ass.